thank you all for being here today. My name is Gregory. I'm a cognitive anthropologist and a postdoctoral researcher with the Thrive Centre. Today I'm going to be talking about how natural byproducts of the way our minds work can explain universally recurrent aspects of what we see in world religions. For this, I will also show how our developmentally natural endowment of intuitive ontologies that we all share relates to pan-cultural creativity in the cultural worlds of children. I will make the case that children and adolescents play a key role in religions due to their functionally optimal ability to communicate and generate particular and essentially important religious type concepts. Fitting with our location here today, I'd like to introduce to you Push the Talking Trash Can. He's the all-important star of the show. Okay, I can see several confused faces out there wondering what the relevance of this is to religion. Push Talking Trash Can is a perfect example of minimally counterintuitive concepts that's all important for cognitive science of religion. Okay, so how are we to understand the attraction to many, but maybe not everybody, of this fella in a video clip, and its relevance to the propagation of religious representations? A hypothesis originating with Pascal Boyer drives this area of research that I'm talking about here today. It is alternatively known as the minimal counterintuitive hypothesis, or the MCI hypothesis. Counterintuitive hypothesis. Boyer's hypothesis claims that concepts or cultural representations that violate a small number of our shared intuitive knowledge expectations about the way the world is possess a memorability and transmission advantage over other concepts. So concepts such as our friend Push here, Talking Trash Can, or more obviously religious type concepts such as a tree that hears our prayers, that are both minimally counterintuitive, should be better remembered and more likely to be communicated than commonplace concepts that are consistent with our intuitive knowledge structures, such as an empty trash can. It's a commonplace idea all over the place, nothing special about it, or a tree that is growing. However, this advantage doesn't apply to all counterintuitive ideas. A tree that is made of glass, hears your prayers you'll make next week, and is invisible on Tuesdays, has many more than the required minimal amount of violations of intuitive knowledge structure. Such an idea would struggle to acquire widespread distribution within a cultural group, as the contextual and semantic coherence of such an idea is dubious, and its increased conceptual violations will prove it difficult for minds to encode and to commit to memory. This is probably an appropriate point to point out again that counterintuitive concepts appear to be key to understanding religion. They've also been reported to be prevalent universally in cultures. Okay, so some examples. The archaeological record shows that minimally counterintuitive concepts are not just a cognitive bias of modern times. A good example comes from the lion man, or man lion, we can't be quite sure, found in Germany from 32,000 years ago. Interestingly, there are very few natural kind concepts in the directly observable world we experience on a day-to-day basis. The transfer of goal directedness into an inanimate object is a good such example. The theoretical propositions of science are also a rich source of counterintuitive ideas. The discontinuity of subatomic particles in spatial temporal dimensions is a good one. And there are plentiful examples from the cultural worlds of children as packed with these concepts that violate our intuitive knowledge structures, like a talking mouse, a transfer of human mentality into a biological kind, an animate kind. And this probably isn't the most culturally sensitive way to demonstrate the connection between cultural representations common to children and religious type representations, but you might begin to see the connection I'm trying to make. This is also an appropriate point to recap that counterintuitive, supernatural agent concepts such as Lord Ganesha are reported as a recurrent universal factor of world religions, and to several scholars, the primary defining factor of religion itself. So, Boyer's hypothesis has generated some considerable empirical attention. These are some of the examples. However, there have been several studies that failed to replicate the memorability advantages of counterintuitive concepts, or pointed the way towards revision to Boyer's hypothesis. Several potential confounds common to these studies have been offered to explain the lack of findings, such as questionable construct validity and inconsistent use of the term counterintuitive. Others have suggested that inadequate pretest methodology has also confounded stimuli, causing the reference of stimuli to deviate from the intended meaning of the authors. A study also on this failure to replicate list is that of Gregory and Barrett. In my completely unbiased and impartial view, this study also provides a strong contribution towards understanding the reason for these mixed results. It happens that nearly all MCI studies to date have solely recruited university students for subjects. Gregory and Barrett considered a sample with a much broader age range of participants than had previously been recruited for any other MCI study. Post-hoc analysis of this study found a significant and varied relationship between age and the recall of counterintuitive stimuli. It was revealed that children and young adults under the age of 25 years significantly better recalled counterintuitive stimuli over intuitive stimuli consistent with our expectations. However, post-hoc analysis found that this was not the case for older adults of 25 years and above. To our great surprise, older adults were found to significantly better recall the intuitive stimuli over the counterintuitive stimuli, a complete reversal to the trend seen in younger persons. This age effect in the recall of counterintuitive ideas motivated the central hypothesis of the studies that I will now come to describe. For these new experimental studies, recruitment in the UK offered one obvious path to the sample, as it was based in Oxford at the time. China was thought to be a great site to conduct the second half of research for reasons such as the debate that still rages between those who differentiate between analytic thinking of Westerners and the holistic cognition of East Asia, and those who adhere to a more cognitive universalist position. Added to this, institutionalized religious belief in China has been closely controlled for at least the last 50 years or so. So it was figured it would be a great place to find religious type ideas in a country that many report as none. This first new study investigating the hypothesized age effect was a free recall experiment. Data from a total of 399 participants was collected as demanded for an analysis of a sample that was representative of the age demographic of two different populations. So most of in the UK they came from Oxford and Oxfordshire, and it was Beijing in China, thanks again to the Chinese Academy of Science. It was the largest MCI study to date as well. Participants of an extremely wide range of ages, from just 3 years of age, 3 years and 2 months, to 82 years of age, were recruited and also tested in locations in which the natural transmission of ideas might occur, such as parks, restaurants, canteens, sports centres, supermarkets and schools. And participants completed 2 periods of free recall. The immediate period of recall followed a 3-minute distracted task and another after a 1-week period of delay. Rigorously pre-tested counterintuitive stimuli and intuitive stimuli were presented on screen in randomised order. A stimuli looks something like this. A subject-predicate statement formed the backbone of the stimuli. Through the wearing of headphones by participants, the visual presentation was simultaneously accompanied by an oral presentation of 2 grammatically uniform sentences that were a descriptive elaboration of the base statement.
There is a fully grown male person that is impossible to see. He is a man that is invisible.
So the collected data was analysed by a hierarchical linear model, or HLN. As appropriate for the developing model, it was divided into 2 building stages. The key things we're looking at here is this counterintuitiveness K, there's a significance value, it's less than 0.05, and country of experiment sites. This is involved with the building of the next stage of the model. It's procedure for doing it. You can see at this point the counterintuitive effect is significant, as the counterintuitive ideas for the total samples were better recall than the intuitive ideas. Importantly, we can also see that country of experiment site did not significantly predict the recall of stimuli, and there was no significant difference between the British and Chinese populations for overall recall rates. Consequently, this cross-cultural factor was omitted from the final model. But we've still got some interesting comparisons, it's all good. This bar chart represents the same data and more clearly demonstrates the lack of difference between the British and Chinese populations. So on the left-hand side of China, this is the recall, percentage recall of the intuitive ideas, consistent, commonplace, and these will be more wacky, typically counterintuitive ideas. On the other side, you can see, it's relatively similar between there's no difference anyway, two populations. And the light grey bars represent the immediate period of recall, and the dark grey bars represent stimuli recalled correctly after a 1 week period of delay. The finalised model included additional factors and interactions. You'll see there's lots of factors in this model of cultural transmission. I'm not going to be talking about here today, so please ignore them if you can. I'll point out the important ones. There's a lot considered in this model. I'm very happy to talk about them afterwards if anyone's interested. So we're specifically interested in this line here. Okay. It's counterintuitiveness. Now you'll note that counterintuitiveness is no longer significant. Okay. It's because in this HLM, it's been superseded by the prediction of this factor, which is in support of the hypothesized age effect, contrast now revealed that younger persons in the sample did indeed recall significantly higher proportions of counterintuitive stimuli over intuitive stimuli. Also, as predicted, this trend was reversed for the older adult participants of the sample, for whom the intuitive stimuli were better recalled than the counterintuitive stimuli. So the flipping from childhood to older adulthood, the flipping. Kids are really getting the counterintuitive stuff, and older adults don't care. Well, however you want to put it.
You can't teach an old dog.
Okay, I'll show you some more details on this pattern, on these patterns with age. Okay? So recruitment of the participants in the British and Chinese populations was done in accordance with quotas for 7 age groups. Many participants, 7 age groups over 2 populations. The youngest age group of 3 to 5 years of age, all the age groups up here at the top. As might be predicted, due to the ungirding of intuitive ontologies at this age, all these cognitive mechanisms have yet to appear. There was no significant difference between the recall of counterintuitive and intuitive stimuli, and you can see it's relatively low. Okay, the bar's getting bigger. We move to children aged 6 to 8 years of age. There's now a significant recall advantage in the UK population, but not yet in the China population. As you can see, in both immediate and the later periods of recall, this difference here is large, and this is not significant. There's nothing going on here at this point. However, as more stimuli are recalled in both populations now, China and UK, the kids are remembering and recalling these ideas in significantly greater numbers than the intuitive kinds. They're grabbing onto the fantastical counterintuitive stuff. And, that's what's interesting to them. That's what they want to communicate. As we move into adolescents, 13 to 19 years, the bars reach their maximum extent. This is like functionality of memory at its optimum. In both populations, there's a significant advantage for counterintuitive ideas. They're still getting it, they're still really interested in the counterintuitive stuff. Commonplace stuff, whatever. However, as we enter early adulthood, this recall advantage disappears. There's no significant difference in either population between counterintuitive stimuli and intuitive stimuli. And as we enter what we might call middle adulthood, now we start to see the reversal happening. So we've got intuitive stimuli, the commonplace, everyday stuff, familiar stuff. It's been better recalled than the fantastical religious type counterintuitive stuff. And this continues into older adulthood as well. This went right up to 82 years of age. So you can see, again, the intuitive stuff, counterintuitive, remembering everything there. Okay. So that's the free recall study. A second study in this project addressed an outstanding issue for Pascal Boyer's counterintuitiveness theory. The problem being that the persistence of our cultural and religious institutions cannot solely be explained by fidelity in recall and recommunication of cultural ideas. The creative origination of counterintuitive representations also needs to be explained. Where do they come from in the first place? They don't exist out there, and they haven't always existed. This next study was a generation task. A total of 90 participants were again recruited from both the British and Chinese populations. Similar to the hypothesised MCI age effect of the free recall study, it was again hypothesised that children and adolescents would have a greater natural propensity to create more counterintuitive representations than the older adults. A wide age range was again considered for participants. Recruited and tested again in locations where these kind of ideas might naturally occur, the transmission of. Given a predetermined bank of 50 adjectives and 40 nouns, participants were instructed to create word pair statements to represent 5 categories of their thoughts and feelings. In completing this process, participants were unaware that many of the word pair ideas they had generated were actually counterintuitive concepts. So they were unwitting to the process, they didn't know what was going on. Similar to the free recall experiment, no significant difference in the generation rates of counterintuitive stimuli was revealed between the British and Chinese populations. No difference. They recalled a similar amount. Here are the results. We can see some examples of the most commonly generated ideas from the participants here. They include both Chinese and English, Chinese translation and English. So we've got the adjective part of the word pair on the left-hand side and the noun part on the right. Now to join these words up, you have 50 adjectives and 40 nouns, and they were just matching, matching, and this is what they came out with. You might notice that well, we've got the 5 categories over here. These are the 5 categories of thoughts and feelings in which, in accordance with the criteria, they created these ideas. And you might notice that inanimate objects with a transfer of human mentality quite often, such as attacking tomatoes, laughing banana, were quite common choices. In support of the age effects hypothesis, a significant interaction between age and the number of counterintuitive ideas was found. From these bars, you can see here, we've got the kids, 13, adolescents in this group here. You know, they generate more than the older adults do. Okay, you can see this nice curved linear relationship. So what's of the implications of these findings? If we are to better understand the role that counterintuitive concepts play in shaping the cultures that we live in, findings here clearly show that the contribution of persons of all ages must be considered. Therefore, alternatives must be found to the present dependence on the weirdest people in the world, otherwise known as university students, if we are to acquire a better understanding of the counterintuitive effect. Okay, this is a collation of the age groups from the free recall study. So at the top here, we've got all the 7 age groups, starting with young kids. The orange bars here, when they leave apart from this middle line, that's a significant finding. Okay, and we've got the effect size down here. So these are large effect sizes. The blue is the intuitive. As you get into old adult, they dive down. It's large again, and you can see the similarities between the two populations. You know, in the 6 to 8 year old age group here, you know, there's nothing in China. I'm not quite sure what can explain this. Could be a comprehension thing, but you know, the curvilinear relationship is in place for both populations, so it's possibly pretty good, you know, support for naturalness of religion. So children get counterintuitive ideas and adults don't. But didn't we know this all along? We readily see the rich creative voice of children reflected in their preferences for fantastical stories and folk tales, and in their communication acts and imaginative play. And we see this in much greater extent than we do in older adults. So can wider psychological research in memory tell us anything useful for understanding this curvilinear age trajectory that represents a person's ability to remember counterintuitive concepts or not? I believe an answer might come from research in cognitive load theory. Working memory capacity typically reduces with age as it degrades, as does working memory's overall processing speed. 5 MCI studies show that counterintuitive stimuli with an identical number of conceptual modifiers to their intuitive stimuli counterparts are significantly more difficult to recall. This therefore provides meaningful evidence to demonstrate that counterintuitive ideas do place greater working demands on cognition. Could it be that the ability to entertain, retain, and successfully communicate the high cognitive demands of counterintuitive concepts might only be permitted by younger minds with adequate memory resources that have not yet diminished with age, as will typically happen. So in conclusion here, it's pertinent to ask, when communicating the materials of institutionalized religion, is it of utmost importance for the continuity of religions to transmit to persons while they are young? And also, could there be this exciting thing, could there be a Chomsky-style window of opportunity between childhood and adolescence for the successful acquisition of religiosity or even religious belief? So, will you leave here today ready to transmit and spread the word of Push the Talking Trash Can to others? There's a chance you might, but as I hope you've all gathered the sense of here today, he's got all the right boxes ticked for cultural transmission, and he's certainly proved a sticky idea to many at Disneyland. However, as evidence here shows, this stickiness is sure to depend on if you yourself are old or not. Thank you very much for being here.